My grandmother had always been that lady. The youngest of three sisters, she marched to her beat to make ends meet in a low income household. Despite growing up in a typical Indian household in a town that you can't even identify on a map, Mimi's name would be hailed for generations to come. The town held a strong belief that a female warrior kept them all in check. It was a story that was told to misbehaving children to finish up their dinner. While some dismissed it as a legend, some garnered the belief that the warrior now lives through Mimi. It was the only explanation for the sudden disappearance of bad men who would intrude the peace of the village. The old and the wise claimed that 15-year-old Mimi had taken her warrior form and chased them away for good. Mimi would laugh in response, silencing any questions that would come her way. While these mysterious tales subsided but not completely diminished, every summer that I spent in Mimi's ancient house, I'd learned something new about her from the many stories I'd hear. I had learned she once caught a live snake at the age of 12 in the backyard and tossed it to safety. That she was part of a traveling circus in her teens, but the most interesting of them all was how she used to throw these grand soirees randomly, where the highlight was her world famous beetroot pudding, aptly named by my grandpa. I remember waking up to the smell of roasted cashews on the mornings of her parties. The kitchen would always stay shut. Mimi never liked to be disturbed through her process. 3 hours later, she'd bring the goodness in a glass bowl and I'd get the privilege of the first bite. How does it taste so great? What is the secret? I'd beg. She'd pinch my cheek. Love, she'd smile. I sighed at her stereotypical answer. Dil se. From the heart in Hindi. Straight from the heart. It was the same answer every time, and I began to accept that the chef always has his secrets. When I was 19, her health slowed down. I stayed beside her in bed, watching the many visitors say their farewells, seeking her blessings. Once they all had left, she reached out for my hand. I extended, surprised at the cold metallic object placed in my palm. It was a key, rusty and old, unlike the others used in the house. She pulled me close, kissed my forehead, and whispered, "The secret is in the kitchen storage." She passed away the next day. I held on to the key until we saw through her proceedings. I told my parents I'd be staying an extra day. After they left, I went to the kitchen and opened the storage. It had a single light bulb. The corner of it looked like a door where the key fit perfectly. I pushed it open, almost losing my balance at what seemed to be a staircase. At first, it was the stench. I covered my nose and walked down, holding out the flashlight from my phone, the smell getting worse as I reached the bottom. I stepped on something soft, wet. I shone the light in front of me. Bodies, dozens of them tossed on top of the other like meat in a butcher shop. I controlled the bile that came up my throat as I ran out of the basement. 1,000 questions swirled around as I dialed the number of the local police station. It bewildered me that someone as lively as Mimi would be even remotely related to something as gruesome as this. I sat out on the porch steps, barely paying attention to the swarm of doctors and policemen investigating the house. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears as I saw the stretches with dead bodies carried out one after the other. Hours later, one of the policemen requested to talk personally to gather details about the series of events. I explained everything from Mimi's last moments to the discovery of the cellar. These bodies, some of them are over 40 years old, he explained. I could feel my stomach turn again. We could identify one for now. He wasn't even one of our own. He was miscreant from the nearby village, he continued. The tales about the female warrior surrounded my head. They were true to some extent after all, and Mimi held this secret all her life. Peculiar thing, There is a common pattern in all of them, the officer stated. He asked me to brace myself as he uncovered the white sheet covering one of the corpses. There it was, a gaping hole on the left side of the chest, right where the heart used to be. They are all missing their hearts. I, I felt my body go numb. Love, I heard Mimi's voice in my head. Dil se, straight from the heart.